What's going on, gamers, YouTubers? Today we're doing the Belial deck profile. We're going to try something a little different and play the deck out as I talk about it instead of having it all there to begin with. So Belial is an absolute beast. He can discard a card from your hand that is not an Ultra Hero to let you give a Belial and a Kaiju with extra power. Lust BP grade up 1, and he's a big fat 18,000 power, which is absolutely insane. His effect is basically like the triple rare Mebius, but he's an 18,000, so you know he's going to be strong. Fortunately, compared to Mebius, his support pieces are not quite so strong. He doesn't have a super special buddy that like Hikari, which helps bring the whole things together. He doesn't have multiple strong level 7s. So what we're doing is we're playing a solid amount of Belials. That's going to help us get to our triple pretty consistently. Like ideally we're making this into a triple, so we have the 18,000, and then we don't need to discard a card just to make himself an 18,000. And then we have a good amount of level 6s, so you can make a 6/7 double and discard one to make an 18,000. It's a great way to play lane 3. And you can also do one of these. It's a solid 13,000 that can be boosted up to 16,000. I've considered playing some of the just vanilla cards that can get boosted to 17,000. But being able to just go play one of these. If your opponent's a power type, it goes to 13, you could discard off triple rare Belial, make it a 16. I think that's more worth it than having the random chance at the 1,000. So that's what we're doing for Belials. Speaking of getting the right type access for the opponent, we are playing 3 Geed Identity and 2 First Day of the End of the World. The Geed Identity lets you change the opposing Ultra Hero their type to any type you want. So you can change them to power for this one, you can change them to speed for this one. It's a great way to sneak extra power in. Even this one, you could change it to power and get a 9,000, which is not too shabby. I really like this card. It's very strong. I was playing it at 4 before, but I think with this current setup, I'm actually trying out 2 of these. So this is a little bit new tech you guys are seeing. Adding 2 of the First Day of the End of the World. This is a round 4 scene, which if you have a Belial, you can give all your level 5 and level 6 Kaijus plus 1,000 for the turn, and then discard this one. So there's a few reasons for this. So first, the Geed Identity is, I think, your strongest scene. It lets you get powers, which kind of helps you fix bad hands, which is really important in a deck that's so reliant on just one card, which is the triple rare Belial. If you don't see this one, you're really struggling. So being able to see the scene and make these power grade, BP grade increase Belials a lot better is kind of like a mini Belial. So that's why it's really important. I do think 4 would be really good, but it's gonna tight on space in this deck. And so the reason for First Day of the End of the World is because what I've noticed is that some of the games, now to be clear, I built this deck to try to win on turn 3. That's not always going to happen. So I've noticed games kind of drag out sometimes, and when they drag out, and you have a lot of Kaiju, it's very easy for you to like yoink the lead and turn lane 4 or 5 or whatever. And if you have one of these in your hand, then it's going to let you replace the scene. So being able to replace the scene of a round 3 or round 2, so they stop being able to use it and they can stop fighting back. Honestly, that's the main point. We don't super need the effect. The effect is a little bit of a bonus, but if you need to and the game's really going long, you can stick it, and then no one's going to be able to use their fun scenes after you play your round 4 scene, and just don't activate it so it stays on the field. So it can not only help you just let your opponent stop getting value out of their scene later in the game, but also give you a little turn finish. So that's why we're playing it at 2. I think if you play maybe 4 Geed Identity and one of these, you're just never going to see it when you see it, and you don't mind if the game's not going to go long. You can always discard it to Bell. So we've got Belials, we've got scenes, How are we supporting Belial? Well, you saw it in the title and the thumbnail. Well, maybe not the thumbnail. You just saw it. It is a kaiju centric build. Now, if you've seen some of the videos, you've noticed a Belial juggler, and I think this is actually the common way to play it. I've seen on Japanese Twitter, Belial plus juggler. It is a very strong deck to play it that way. You get a lot more draw power, which is going to hit your Belials good. But what I noticed from playing that deck a little too much was that juggler never felt good to play. You never felt happy like playing jugglers, other than the fact that they were drawing cards, which is helping you get your Belials. So at the end of the day, I decided they gotta go, because none of them are targets for the Belial. They do have level 6s that boost your powers, and let you eat identity them up, which is quite a little nice. I tried around idea where I played four draw level 5s and then only power boosters, and then 4 jugglers. But that way, if you only drew a 5-6 combo, you had the Geet identity, you could force it to like a 14k, which is pretty solid. But I just, at the end of the day, it was a little clunky, and so I tried out the pure kaiju version, and I think that's the way to go. We're going for quick early kills, and our best friend for quick early kills is going to be the card that I said would break the game during spoiler season, Dark Belial, and he looks so good. Oh my god. Right here. And our boom. Dark Belial. This card, I love this card so much. One, it looks cool. 2, it's crazy powerful. And 3, the level 5 has some decent utility. You're not ever too bad. The only time you feel bad is if you only draw the level 6. So this card, what it does is, if you are not familiar with Dark Belial's game, is if he's played as a single, I forgot he works as a single. If he plays as a single or a double, then your opponent cannot level up this lane the next turn. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely brutal. So if you catch them slipping, then they can't evolve for 1 turn, which basically guarantees that if he's winning if you win that lane, the first time, you're going to win it the next turn too, because they can't do anything about it. And then he gets a double as a 15,000. Oh my goodness, that is a crazy power level. Basically, if you have the double Dark Lugia and you play it on lane 2, there's nothing. I think there's actually nothing they can do about it, really, unless they played a 2-3 Mebius or something, a 2-3 Ginga. They would basically have to predict that you're doing this Dark Lugia play, and counter it with their own card that can beat it. Ginga is like really the only thing that can fight it, because it's constantly a 17 by itself. Whereas Mebius, it's sure it can boost itself to 17 by discarding a card, but that means every turn they've got to keep discarding a card. And if they played a 1 or a 1-2 in that lane, they are so far behind catching up to Lugia. It's just crazy. So Dark Lugia is absolutely insane in the brain, and that's why we love it. So our next fiend, our next kaiju is the Zeton. The Zeton. So we're playing 4 of the double rare from set 2, and then 4 of the new rare from 3. So Zeton is insane in this deck because it has EX power, which means you can target it with the Belial, and the effect is just crazy. So it says when your opponent's BP grade is increased, this character's BP grade becomes extra, which is 20,000. So if you put this against a Ginga, I talk about Ginga a lot, but it's just the easiest example. If you put this against a Ginga, against a Decker that's online, against a Mebius or whatever, against Mebius they cannot use the effect for BP grade increase. Against Ginga, like this guy's just 20,000. So it's absolutely brutal for certain decks. Getting a little distracted. Funny fact is that I wanted to make a father-son deck, which is Belial Geed, and then if you use Scene, you could actually turn your Zeton into a power type. So if it lined up with something that gets boosted for power, you can like force them to BP grade increase, making you a 20,000. Kind of funny if you're brewing that deck. Try that out. Keep that in mind. But Zeton's just like absolute powerhouse, especially if you make a 5/6 Zeton. It's a 14,000 as a double. It's hard to touch 14,000 doubles, especially as we get into like the mid to later points of the game. And then you can boost it to 16. So it's just absolutely fantastic. And then the reason we play this one is because it's a 18,000 by itself, which is solid. And if the opponent is double, it's a 12,000. There's actually not a lot of combos of doubles unless they do a 2/3 double that can beat this, which is why it's so effective in this setup where you only have one draw engine, right? You don't have a lot of draw in this deck, so being able to play this one and kind of negate your opponent's 2 cards is a big deal. So that's why we play this one. And then what is our final cards of the deck? The final 3 cards in the deck are Golbuz. This card is a 10,000 with a double 17,000, and it gets BP grade to extra when there's speed types. Luckily, there's not a lot of speed types in the meta, which is why this card is so strong. I think if this deck is too popular, there might be more speed types that we'll see coming out just to counter the Golbuz, but really, I don't think you should be changing your deck too much to counter a free of card that you probably won't see too much. So let's talk about some of the setups we've seen the deck. You've heard about why it's so good, why Belial lets you boost power anywhere, makes it very versatile. Why we've got our powerhouse Lugia lanes, Golbuz there because it has EX, you can bump it to a 17,000. So you play one card, your opponent's, oh, I'm gonna be okay, it'll be fine. You throw a Golba out there, you boost it up to a 17, and you're absolutely dominating. Okay. So I'll go ahead and show some example setups that you might want to see, and kind of the mental idea I had for the deck when I came up with it. That'll be it for this little deck video. So the first thing we want to do is ideally your first lane is a Belial triple. Now it's not always going to happen that it's a Belial triple because it just doesn't work like that. But if you get it, we're absolutely happy. Then our second lane, the ideal play in the second lane is the Dark Lugia because it is a 15,000 and it blocks level ups. Like I said, your opponent would basically have to predict this and play something that BP grades increases itself as a 2/3. And that's that's a tough sell. That's people aren't really going to be playing that a lot. Really against anything but the Ginga 2/3, you're also going to be forcing them to discard every single turn. And if they play a 1, it's donezo because they're going to play a level 1. That's not going to be Lugia. Next turn they can't level up. They're stuck on 1. The turn after that they play a 2. There's no 1/2 doubles they can contest with Dark Lugia, so they're still losing. 3 turns later, the 4th turn, hopefully they finally can build this up to a triple and beat your Dark Lugia. But by then, it's probably too late. So that's why Dark Lugia is our ideal one. And then in the last lane, we can either do a Golba or a Zeton. So what's going to happen here is you've got your almost guaranteed kill on the Lugia. The 18k Belial is really hard to beat, that 18 power. And then over here you either play Golba, boost it to 17, so you get 17 basically free win. 18, that's hard for a lot of decks to compete with. You don't have to draw like a ton of cards to get to the situation too. Or if you have the Zeton, this is a 14,000, which is pretty fantastic. You can bump it to a 16,000, and they cannot do anything to fight this with BP grade increases or also to go up to. So this is kind of like the ideal setup that you want, but obviously it doesn't always come together. And when you get towards the late game, you're hopefully kind of playing out these 11 kaijus and maybe some of, there's our level 7 bell of these guys. You're trying to get these guys on the field in the late game because a lot of times one of these cards is going to be stronger than one of your opponent's cards. and with the Belial out on the field, they're honestly going to be a lot stronger than two of your opponent's cards in a lot of cases. So that's the Belial monster deck profile, the king of monsters. I really like this version of the deck. It's a little tricky to play because it's so dependent on your opening hand. You don't have a lot of draw powers. I don't remember the math on how many games you'll actually open with a level 5, but it's not ideal. So yeah, it's definitely a strong deck, definitely fun. Give it a whirl. There's a few cards that I want to mention to you all before we end the video that I've they've been in consideration, but I haven't actually like tested them yet, so I can't say for certain how well they'll do, but they definitely. So the first of these cards is going to be Ella King. What Ella King does is if you're the lead player, which you probably will be in this deck, it's quite aggressive, then you can choose a character's battle opponent, and if you do, they cannot resolve the abilities of the chosen character. So this is going to turn a lot of things effects off, but it's only 8,000 by itself, even though it works on single, so that's not that great. So I didn't play this card because I felt like there wasn't a lot of situations where I really wanted it to work, and if I'm playing something and turning off their on play effect, I'm probably winning if I play something with a high power anyway. So I ended up wanting to just play something high power. However, I did consider that in a weird way, this Ella King works like a level 5 searcher, because you can play it on the first turn and deny your opponent's searcher, and then they need to spend some time leveling it up, and honestly denying that one search can totally can ruin days. But I didn't super love it because it did feel like you needed to get the double here on the first turn for it to really like have its most impact, and then the rest of the game it's kind of not so great. But I did consider it just for the fact that it, like, rather than adding to your consistency, it's more decrease on the opponent's consistency. I would like to mess around with this idea a little bit more, but not for today. So that's why Ella King I think is good, but is not in the deck. And then we've got Promo Zeton is one. For where mine went right now. The Promo Zeton, of course, a very strong wrong card. Oh, there they are. So what this guy does is, if your opponent only has one character, like one ultra hero type among their characters, it gets it goes to EX, which is 20,000. If it's a 9,000, it can boost to 14,000. It'll get you a lot more stuff going with your Zetons. So you'd have like maybe a little bit more consistency when trying to make a Zeton double and bumping this to 14. But if you did play this as a double and it's a 14, you can't boost it with Belial. And I think that most decks are basically set up to deny this Zeton these days with small Ginga packages, even in decks that used to be mono. So that's why we're not playing the Zetons. And it's also it's hard. You really have to pick and choose with the kaijus that you're playing. And so, okay, so yeah, that was another option that I decided not to use. Continuing our talk about Zeton, there's the new level 5 from the set. This one's kind of nice because you can boost it to a 13 with Belial's effect. But I think because the deck really doesn't have a lot of draw power, you really want something that is going to stand its ground on its own. And this double rare from set 2 does that a lot better than this Zeton. And then finally, there are, I don't have both of them, but is Spherosaurus. This is the other card that I heavily considered for the Belial deck. Spherosaurus is actually really strong card. So you can play him. He's very strong in leveling 2 because there's not a lot of level 2s essentially, or even like in this deck. So a lot of times people want to play their searchers and things like that, which are basic type. So your Spherosaurus is really going to compete well against pretty much anything your opponent wants to play in lane 2. And then it's going to become a 15,000. It's going to force them to go all the way up to a triple. If your opponent played a searcher on this one, they're probably not going to make it out from underneath Spherosaurus even on the next turn. So it's kind of like Dark Bluegill in a way. And then the best part about this one is that you don't really have to worry about it not matching up. If you have Geet Identity, you can turn your opponent's card into a basic and make it a 15. So pretty good card here. I do like Spherosaurus. I will have to think about playing him again. But the reason why I didn't do it in this build is because I was worried about, I mean, we don't really know what decks people are playing these days. So I don't know how good the basic is. Like, it was very good in set 2 where Rosso Blue is all basics, and all the good Mebius cards, level 2s, are basics pretty much. So Spherosaurus gets to chow down pretty easily. So I didn't want a card where I needed that card plus the Geet Identity. With it being around one scene, you're not always gonna, one, you're not always gonna see both of them together. Two, you're not always gonna be able to keep Geet Identity on the field. And so it felt like it was asking too much, where a lot of these cards are a little bit more standalone good. The Golba being a 10 by itself matters a lot because it beats Scene Searchers, which are at 9. Like if you did a 1-2 Scene Searcher, that's 9. Golba's beating that by itself. Or even if you did the Power one, it's a 10. So this one, Golba's tying it at least, and this one's Spherosaurus. So the 10,000 matters a little bit more for that, and it works much better with Belial, which is like, if you draw the Belial, it's guaranteed to be on the field. If you draw the Geet Identity, there's still a chance your opponent replaces it with an effect, or takes the next turn and plays their round 2, round 3 scene, gets it out of there. So these are the kaijus that I also considered playing but decided against. Let me know what you think about the different kaijus in this deck. And thanks for watching. 22 minutes. It kind of got a little rambly at the end there, but I hope it was useful for you all. If you got this far, we're going to comment the king of kaijus and let us know your favorite kaiju in the comments. Try out this deck for sure. I can run it out for you guys. But you're at the violent part of the video. You should see what that deck looks like again, right? It's gonna get confused. I mugged it up too much. Boom, 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 boom. So we get 8, 10, 8, 3, Geet Identity, 2, End of the World, Bluegills, Zetons, Golbas. That's the deck. See you in the next one.